Coming up on this episode of Common Denominator.
I always say to people that I don't know what you're thinking. I know how you're thinking. And if I know how you're thinking and how human thinks, different cultures, different places in the world, I can manipulate their minds a little bit and play with their thoughts a little bit and create those experiments that I do live on stage.
Hi, and welcome to Common Denominator, where we focus on human connection and what brings us together. I'm Moshe Popack, and today, our shared fascination with mentalists. My guest is Lior Suchard, widely considered to be one of the greatest mentalists in the world. He's performed in over 70 countries, toured with Barbara Streisand, appeared on Dr. Phil, James Corden, and Ellen DeGeneres' shows, and so much more. He's truly an incredible talent, and he'll share the process by which he brings his experiments to life. Before we play the interview, a quick reminder that if you like the show, please subscribe and follow me on social media at @MPopack. Now, here's my conversation with Lior Suchard. Enjoy. Hi, Lior, and welcome to Common Denominator.
Pleasure. How are you?
I'm doing great. You're a mentalist and not an illusionist. Can you explain the core difference between yourself and, let's say, David Copperfield?
The difference is very simple. Illusions are illusions. What you see is not real. And what I do has a little bit of reality because it's based on different concepts like psychology and nonverbal communication and influencing and reading people and body language reading. And these are like real aspects of psychology. This is a mentalist. You take those elements to and perform.
Why is it that you think, in general, humans have such a fascination?
I think we are drawn to this because the reason why I do it is because people, when they watch my performances, they become children again, and it makes them wonder and get them excited like children again. Doesn't matter who you are and what is your background, and I think we are drawn to the unknown generally. So once you go to an illusionist show or a magician or a mentalist, you are here for a treat because you're about to experience something that you don't know.
Yeah, I think. It's interesting. You mentioned about being a child again. I was asking someone the other day about how many visitors you think go visit Disney World, and they're like, "Oh, maybe 2 million, 5 million." It's 75 million.
Answer? How many?
75 million.
There you go.
A year, 75 million visitors.
We all want to become children again. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. And I actually, talking about children, I have 10 children, and I look at the kids and how pure they are. And it's actually that they're right. We lose that creativity, I guess, because of the system, right? In the end of the day, it's the kids that are right. It was a crazy experience. The other day, my 9-year-old says to me, because we had a new baby recently, and he says to me, to my wife and myself, it's like, "You get that for free?" About the little baby. And it was so brilliant watching that. You talk about the kids.
I mean, there's a sentence that I heard that I love to say, that it's not that we are growing up and then we stop playing games, is that the reason is we stop playing games and that's why we're growing up. Right.
And I guess the main term of the type of mentalist that you are is that you call it experiments. Why do you use that term, kind of experiment?
Because unlike a magician, it's not tricks. It's not that I'm pressing a button and something works. It is based on something that might go wrong, might fail, and the props are the audience. It's not a special. When I do a show I recently did a show for 18,000 people in Arkansas, and it's the same for me. It's just the theatrical is different. It's still a one-man show. So there's no props. The props are the audience, and what I do is basically real elements of psychology. So it's not tricks. So that's why I love to call it experiments.
So is the idea, and not to open, be behind the curtain too much, but is the idea that you've studied deeply how the human thinks and how True. based on understanding of things that the typical human would not look at, but you're able to see it, certain movements and certain ideas.
Yeah, I always say to people that I don't know what you're thinking. I know how you're thinking. And if I know how you're thinking and how human thinks, different cultures, different places in the world, I can manipulate their minds a little bit and play with their thoughts a little bit and create those experiments that I do live on stage.
Right. So it takes time to you're focusing on things that the typical person does not typically focus on. And I know you did you do some work with the Israeli army as far as profiling and teaching?
Well, how we say, we don't deny and don't confirm.
Right.
Right.
That's exactly. Is there an experiment of all the experiments that you've done that you're most proud of?
Well, I love the intimacy, which means even if I do a show for 5,000 people or 10,000 people, at the end of the day, when you pick someone from the audience and you tell them the name of their first pet when they were 6 years old, or their first kiss when they were 13 years old, or the name of their kindergarten teacher, which I do in every show live on stage. I do those amazing feats. It's always the best because the storytelling is great, but I love simplicity, and simplicity means to understand exactly what's the starting point, the middle, and the end. And I love the audience to understand what happened here. And when I go with something simple, people think that it is simple to do it. It's very hard to do it. It's very easy to understand what I've done. So I love the simple things. But if you ask me about grand feats and big stuff, just watch my talk shows, the last one on the Late Late Show and the one before that. These are the biggest things I've done.
I'll tell you, so it's when you say it's hard, is it that you have to fine tune years of, so what is the work that you're actually doing in order to prepare? You say it's simple and you can explain simply, but I assume like anything, like I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for years, and the greatest athletes, for example, that have trained, in the end of the day, they make it look so simple. So True. What is your, I guess, daily routine or the process?
There's no daily routine. I think a lot about the ideas and the concepts. I mean, the techniques, I told you a little bit about it, from body language reading to inferencing to hypnosis to reading people to body language reading to nonverbal communication to really fast thinking to assumptions to deductions like Sherlock Holmes used to do to get to a conclusion. And I get feedback from the world, from my traveling, from people that I meet, from places that I see. And then I get like an idea or a concept of the storytelling behind the act that I want to do. I always wanted to do something with Rubik's Cube, so it took me years to develop a concept. So sometimes I think about, it's kind of like writing a book or writing a poem. You can write something or think of something and then put it aside. And then after a year, you'll have an idea and you bring it back and you add something and you take off something until you're ready to try it in the new show. And then I do it in the new show and see the reactions, and I perfected it. There's some things that I perfected all the time, all day long. So it's all about creative thinking and creating the acts.
Would you say, I know for you, right, the simple experiments, but is there something that you've seen the greatest reaction from the audience that, for instance, that the audience has loved more than any other experiment that you've ever done?
There's always great reactions from the audience. I mean, my job is to get people to wonder and to be excited. And it's the art of astonishment, right? To astonish. And there's no something which I said this is better than the other, right? They're all huge and they're all in the maximum.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to the Common Denominator podcast. My guest this week is world-renowned mentalist Lior Suchard. Next week, I'll chat with Kim Rose, a dietitian and diabetes expert. She'll tell us how to start eating better, take better care of our bodies, and how to recognize, prevent, and treat type 2 diabetes. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. Now, back to the show. You know, it's an amazing journey that you've been on, to the extent where you've been on Jay Leno, Larry King, and some, really great top, in my mind, shows. How was that experience? Like kind of the first time, if you take us back to the first time when you had that kind of first break and, you're working, and all of a sudden you get an appearance on a Jay Leno or Larry King.
Yeah. Well, again, it looks easy from the viewer side, but it takes a lot of years. You need to meet the person, you need to meet the production, they need to like you, you need to show them that you're going to do something amazing, because at the end of the day, it's handshaking hands, because you want to appear on the biggest television show in the world, and they want the best content in the world. And I was 5 times on the Tonight Show, and I was 5 times on the Late Late Show, and the list goes on and on. And for me, it's a great opportunity to spread the art that I do all over the world. And when people see it and they're amazed, and the acts are great, and it's funny and it's entertaining, and people watch it, and then they want to see it live, and then I get invited to their corporate events and to their private events and to their like high-end special events, and it's always fun for me to make those adventures, I call them, and appearances.
That message, that kind of idea, that it takes so much intention, so much journey in order to finally get there. But I like what you said, that in the end, it's person to person. And I think that exists in business and everything that you do, that we're all just people. And if you, sure. Right. And if you just recognize that and you jump, the problem is that most people don't even try, right? They don't even try. One of my favorites, you talk about the work that you do on the Rubik's Cube, when you had Gerard Butler do that behind his back.
And he solved it behind his back without knowing how to solve it.
Right. So I guess you're hypnotizing in a way, controlling in a way his action. It seemed like that, because you weren't touching him in that, right? And I remember my grandfather told me that he was on his deathbed, and the last thing he said to me, 93 years old, and it was like he had crystal clear eyes, his organs were shutting down, and he said it shouldn't be, and it reminded me of that. He said it shouldn't be that I should not be able to move your hand. And I guess you reach certain levels of consciousness. And do you believe in that kind of collective consciousness? That we're all...
Yeah, because I use it in every performance. It's an energetic thing. It's a lot of energy flowing into the show, into the acts. Again, I'm not going to tell you exactly how it was done, but it's very, very difficult to master this art. That's why there's not a lot of people who does that.
Right.
But the Jerry Butler one with the Rubik's Cube was one of the first time I've done it. Now I'm doing it in almost every show.
Yeah, it was tremendous, because seeing that proves in the physical world. I mean, again, not a lot of people are doing that, but for me, that proves in the physical world, and that things seemingly beyond nature are actually in nature. And if that's the case, how far can you push what you're doing? What are the limits? What do you think the typical human has certain limitations? What do you think the possibility of limitations are for the human?
Well, there's no limitations in the acts, but the only thing that might be challenging is that it doesn't work by demand, which means it's not like I'm on stage and I say, okay, challenge me, everybody. And people I'm doing a 90 minutes performance, and then somebody comes to me and says, you are amazing. Tell me the name of my wife. What's the name of my wife? And it's not like I know the name of his wife. So in order to do an act, you have to be very, very focused on the act and on the person. And you need to create a connection, and you need to build the act with that person, or 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever you do. But if you will go to me right now and say, okay, I'm thinking of a number, what number I think of, I might not be able to do it, because it's a challenge and it's like attacking me. And so this is basically the challenge. I'll give you a metaphor.
Right.
Let's say that there's a robber who stole something valuable and he hid it somewhere. and nobody knows where he hid it, and he's in jail, and he won't tell anyone. I will not be able to go to him and tap into his mind and tell you exactly where the diamonds are. But if the burglar, if the robber will come to me and say, okay, let's try, I'm thinking of the name of the place right now, and let's see if you can do it, and he will be willing to participate in the experiment, I will be 100% accurate, knowing the exact place. But that's the paradox, because he will never do it if he doesn't want to do it. So it will never work on someone who doesn't work it to work on him.
Right. So I guess going in, right, that's amazing, because I guess going in, these guests that you have are open, because I do work, I told you I do work in the martial arts. So in that space, you see things that are not common, and it's amazing. I wish we can make that normal in society, that we recognize that we're all connected, and that we're okay to be vulnerable and open in that space. Because imagine how much more as a society we'd be able to accomplish. Imagine the work, right? The work that you're in and the space. What I also love is your beginnings. Like me, you're naturally an introvert, right? So tell us a little bit about that story, that your beginnings when you were 10 years old.
Well,
and how you got
most
into
of
this.
the big stuff that you've seen me doing now on stage are based on stuff that I've done since I was very, very young. I mean, I used to play a game of hiding a ring or a coin in one of the hands, and I have to guess which hand is it. Now I'm doing it on the biggest stages in the world, and I get 20 people on stage to hide an object, and I need to find it. If I don't find it, they each get $1,000. Nobody got the money yet, by the way. And because I'm very good at what I do, and it's a challenge for me with the audience, and of course it's fun and theatrical, and people are enjoying it. So, and again, the Rubik's Cube starting in from childhood, and again, basically, when I manage audience, they are like children, and I'm the conductor, the mind conductor, and I'm doing it as a symphony, and it's fun. It's fun. People want to be, entertaining and have fun, and especially when it's intellectual, it's very high end.
And I'll tell you something. We've had a few guests that have been very, I guess, introverted, and they found their talent. And that's been able to propel them in society. It's interesting. And I always, I'm always thinking about different practical ways how guests and the listeners can go through society in a healthy way. So I think that, you kind of find the thing that you're good at. Were you, even before kind of your, as a child, as a young child, when you remember yourself, were you naturally, I guess, sensitive? Did you have,
oh yeah,
yeah, that's what it was. Right.
Of course.
Right. So I relate to that very much. I know, I would hear kind of people's thoughts and understand people's, and it would seem to me like it would be a curse in a way. So people would speak and things would happen, and I'm like, but that's not the reality. And I always wanted a world that was the real thinking, kind of the thought, the speech, the action, the congruency. So it was like, I guess you're just sensitive, and you come into it and realize that actually that's your gift in society. So then I know also then later you were a contestant, right, on a Israeli, right? I guess that was your big break. Tell us about that.
That was a live TV show in Israel with Uri Geller, famous Uri Geller.
Yeah.
He was one of the first mentalists ever, in our time. And the goal was to find the next Uri Geller, who will be the best mentalist. I won that TV show. It brought me a lot of publicity here in Israel, but it's not the reason why I became good at what I do and why I became famous at what I do. I became famous and good because I've done good things, and I was the best at what I do. And I got to places with the networking and the places that I've been and the people that I met and the work that I've done.
And we ask all guests this, and it's just a key theme. What's something that comes to your mind that you're truly grateful for in your life?
Well, my job is not easy because I travel a lot and I have lots of adventures, but it's not, again, I just did a big article for the Israeli news channel, and I talked about how the people from the side, they look and they see the private jets and the performances and the glow and all of that, which is not really true, because the hard work, when I'm on stage, it's not the hard work. For me, it's easy. The hard work comes before and after. And I'm grateful to have a family that understands it and supporting and loves to talk on my behalf and to be always on my side, on both sides, and on front and from the back, and support me all the time.
This is super important. Family, for sure.
Yep.
And also, what's something that people don't know about you?
There's lots of things. I'm a pretty private person, but let me show you. This is the first thing.
You play?
I play piano and I play guitar. So not a lot of people know that. I'm not a super professional, but I'm an amateur plus. Beautiful. And I love Star Wars. I love
join the club.
Back to the Future franchise. I'm a kid. I love to think as a kid.
It's beautiful. You should stay that way. And really,
that's what I'm hoping.
Yes. And and promote that. I try to promote that. People always tell me that I'm a kid, and why do you have so many kids? Because that's truth. That's honest. And I'd rather be with my kids than anything else. It's true. It's the most fun. Yeah,
I've only 3, so I have way to go.
No, 3 is a lot. Each one is a blessing, and you feel at peace, right? You feel at peace when you're with your kids, right? Yep. Even good, bad, ugly. I say don't take it so seriously. One of my kids is jumping off. Who knows? Whatever they're doing. Each day it's a thing, and it's about perspective. And we live once and enjoy it for sure. How can people find out more about you, Lior?
Well, the best way to do is go to my website, to liorsuchard.com, or if you want to see some of the best clips that I have done, go to the Instagram and search me, Lior Suchard, and you're going to see lots of amazing videos from TV shows, from stunts that I've done, from live performances, and it always makes some smile on people's faces, and it's always good.
Well, thank you so much, Lior. Really, it was really, really beautiful.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And I'll finish by saying, like I always do, I say always think positive thoughts, because you can never know who might be reading them. So think about that.
Right. That's exactly right. And whenever are you in Miami sometime? I assume you're in Miami at some point.
I am. I'm going to be there in a few months. I'm going to be there.
Yeah. So we'll definitely catch up. Thank you so much, Lior. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Next week, I'll speak with dietitian and diabetes expert Kim Rose. She has expert advice on how you can start eating better and feeling better right away. And if you're at risk of type 2 diabetes, already have it, Kim will give you practical steps on how to dramatically improve your diet and your health. Please subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode, and follow me on social media at @Popack. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you again soon.